Man of Steel is a real man Superman. And if you're not a real man, just stop watching this. Only real men actually really enjoy Man of Steel. There's a lot of confusion on the Man of Steel movie. When people say, yo, this wasn't Superman or this is some other type of Superman, it is. It is a different type of Superman. It's a more realistic style Superman. This is if Superman was actually on planet Earth, not just some comic book that somebody wrote for kids. This is a real life depiction of what Superman actually would have to go through and actually look like with a more serious nature about it. I'm gonna get into it because the Man of Steel mindset is about real life. It's about real life. Everything Clark was going through is what we as men go through. That's why the movie was so good. That's why most real men like this movie, is because that's exactly what we've been going through since birth.
I got motion, twin, since birth.
When you see the kid of Clark going through all of this stuff, he's like trying to figure out the world. He's in class. His teacher's looking goofy to him. The classmates are looking goofy to him. And then he has to run out. That is a real life boy growing up into manhood situation. And here, I'm going to explain that. When we were going through puberty, when a boy is going through puberty, he's figuring out all this stuff and he's realizing he's a little stronger. He's realizing he sees the world a little differently. You start answering your parents a little snarky. You know what I mean? You start saying some rebuttals like, I knew that.
I knew it. I knew it.
That's kind of what this is. That's what he's going through at this point in time. He's going through so much and he's trying to figure all of this stuff out. We identify with that as men because that's what happens to us. When he runs off from class and goes into the closet and you hear what the kids are saying.
What's wrong with him anyway? He's such a freak. Why, baby? His parents won't even let him play with other kids. I know, what a weirdo.
You went through that. You felt that. You understood that. You're like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt when I was a kid. I was weird. People was making fun of me. Like, that's what this is. That's why you vibe with this. He's going through a real life experience.
The world's too big, Mom.
His dad only wants the best for him, but he knew he was going to be different. He knew he was going to be talked about. He knew people were going to be scared of him. So he tried his best to guide Clark on understanding how he was supposed to move through this life. He basically told him, you will have to stand on who you are when you decide to go out here. When you decide to become whoever you decide to become, you're going to have to stand on that. That's what he was telling him. That's why he made him hold his powers back for so long, because there are so many different mistakes that you can make. Before he was ready to accept the heavy consequences that was gonna come behind those mistakes. Okay, because when you do mistakes, there's consequences. And we understand that. And when you don't have any guidance and you're just haphazardly making massive mistakes, there's massive consequences that come behind that. Some of us had strong male figures in our lives, okay? Some of us had that guidance from specific areas, even if it wasn't right away from your direct father. There was a teacher, there was an uncle, there was a cousin, there was a big brother, there was somebody that gave you a little bit of guidance along the way that helped you to understand that there's massive consequences behind massive mistakes. So they tried to help you to avoid that. That is a male's perspective. That is a manly situation to go through. Man of Steel. That's why I truly believe that's why he didn't name it Superman. Is because this was about being a man first and foremost. This was about being a man. And the story drew you into that. So now when we fast forward into later years, you see his character. You see he's willing to help. How he saves the people on the oil rig, right? Right away, jumps up there, saves them, no problem. They show you he's been doing this. He's been helping people. He's been saving people long time. All right, since he was a kid. We have that helpful nature. We have that solution-oriented nature. We have that problem-solving nature about us that it makes us feel great when we're able to help people. That's what this was about, man. That's what this was about. So when you look at it and when you analyze the character of the Man of Steel, it was man first. It was man first, then he became Superman. That's why it was so much later into the movie. They gave you a whole bunch of backstory. They gave you all this backstory of Krypton. Then they gave you the backstory of when he was a kid. Then they even showed you a little bit of him not being Superman at all. He was not Superman. He didn't have a suit or nothing. He was just being a guy trying to help. That's why this is a man's movie, is because we don't fully become our super selves until much later in life, where we are willing to hold ourselves accountable, accept the consequences for some of the mistakes we're about to make. That's why he didn't don the cape until like midway through the movie, because he was going through a man's journey, y'all. Let's take a look at how he meets his real dad. Let's imagine for a minute. Let's imagine your dad wasn't there. Let's imagine your dad was in jail. Let's imagine your dad just disappeared for a specific amount of time. That actually happened to me, right? Let's say he comes back and he's that guy. He comes back and he's actually that guy. And he gives you details on the history of how you got there, why you're born, this, that, and the other. That is going to really solidify who you are, which is why he had to wait for that moment to be able to don the suit. He wasn't able to put on the suit until after he found out where he was from and who his parents were. Once we fully understand who our parents are, specifically our dads, which is why they had the dad in there like that. When we find out specifically who our dads are, we really get to understand how we're going to move through the world going forward. This is just for the men. All right, this is just for the man. This is a man's movie. I'm telling you, y'all, because that's exactly what it's about. It's about when he goes to see his real dad and gets the information that he needs. That's when he's ready to accept the consequences. That's when he's ready to hold himself accountable. That's when he's ready to see how much further can he take this. And now we have to understand, this is technically year one, day one Superman. Like, as soon as he puts the suit on, everything goes crazy. And that's kind of how your life is actually gonna go. As soon as you decided to start holding yourself accountable, as soon as you decided to face the consequences, no matter what decisions you made, it started getting crazy. Life started getting really challenging. That's why Zod enters the scene, because now you're trying to face life head on. Oh, okay, guess what? We got something for you. We're going to see how great you really are. And you will be challenged to the highest degree of your ability. And it wasn't even just Zod. It was Zod. It was the chick. It was the big dude. It was 3 people against him. Were there mistakes made? Absolutely. The whole city was trashed. Yes, the city was trashed. But did he, at the end of everything, was it for the greater good? Yes. But will you make mistakes in the process? Absolutely. But the man you are you willing to stand on that? All of the backstory of what his Earth dad was telling him, all of the backstory of what his real dad told him, and then he decides to accept the responsibility, accept the consequences, go out there, and yes, make some mistakes, because that's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. Yup, the city was trashed. Year one, day one, I'm going to quit my job and go out and be an entrepreneur. You're going to make big mistakes, bruh. That's how this works. You're going to make some massive mistakes. But was he pushing through it? Absolutely. Was there times he got knocked down and had to sit there for a hot second? 100%. Because that is a man's journey. That's a man's journey, 1000%. You got to go back and watch it. If you go back and watch it, see now, if it's any chicks on here, you're not going to get it because this is a straight male's perspective. That's who they made this for. Zack Snyder, Christopher Nolan, Hans Zimmer. This is a man's perspective. This is a man's movie. And you only going to get it if you looking at it through that lens. That's why it was such a fantastic, epic cinema. It's because it captured the man's experience in super form. Made you feel that. It made you feel like that's exactly what I'm going through. Superman is me. That's what it was all about. I encourage you to watch it again. And when you watch it, just analyze it. Even from birth, he was going through so much. I mean, the whole planet was exploding. He became an orphan. Like, imagine your trajectory automatically. Out the gate is chaos. Your parents died. You get adopted by some random people. Good, upstanding people, thank God. But you don't know who, you really don't even know who you are until you go and you get that information to where it finally fills the gaps that you feel like have been missing. That's what happens in your life. That's why Man of Steel mindset, it was about becoming a man. It was the man of steel. So that's what I got to say about it. You let me know in the comments how you feel about it. All right. Man of Steel mindset is about becoming a man. All right. It is a man's movie. That's what this was all about. Hope you liked it. Let me know. Shoot me a comment. I'm out.